There we go. Good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to do another episode of reading from Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings. We've done some parts already, but we're going to continue. And this is a capital R reading, so we're not just reading and what it is, just the content. No, we're reading and then we're discussing. We're going into detail, giving background, putting it in context, and particularly with Musashi's book, since his book is about sword fighting, very specifically, right? And the moreness of it and the detail of it, depth in it, and the strategies involved, or the strategy of being that is needed for being a sword fighter. There's a lot more to it, and this is why the capital R reading is important. Because Musashi is not a particularly good communicator. He's not a good writer. That's not his thing. Yes, he's a swordsman. And later he got into art and some poetry and that, but still, he's not a writer. And also it's translated, and I don't think it's a particularly good translator. And not just because I have some, but you can see it internally, right? There's internal inconsistencies. Anyway, still, there's a lot of value to be gained. Plus, the magic of what Musashi says is that if you look at what he's saying in a very literal way, but take it figuratively, take it in the abstract, it now suddenly becomes valuable. He may not have meant that, he may not have intended that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because it's the value that we get from it, the value and the usefulness. This is the point of capital R readings. You're not only looking for the depth of discernment to get to the depth of what the author is saying and meaning, right? Because there's always multiple layers to things. But also, we're looking to extract value, whether or not it was intended from the author or not. Doesn't matter. Right? So this is very, very powerful when one does that. You get lots of value that's not automatically apparent. And this is really great. And we're waiting for Beena. I'm not sure where Beena is. I spoke to her a second ago. But anyway, I'm assuming she'll be here any second now. I'm assuming she'll be here. But anyway, we'll continue in the meantime. I'm just sharing. Uh, Before we get going, I need to share it to the different places so that we're all shared away. And we need to be shared away in order to get squared away, right? Yes, does that make sense? Does to me. I'm almost there, almost there. Yeah, one more share to share. Yeah, Musashi is kind of fun to read. It's quite interesting, and also particularly when you keep in mind, that he's not a writer, and that it's also written long ago, in the 1600s. So we're looking at 400 years difference. Not as ancient as some other things that are ancient, but still, it's been a while. Uh, and it's a different culture that he wrote in. This is very, very, very important to understand. Not just Japanese culture, but he's writing in a subculture of Japanese culture, right? The Japanese culture involves many subcultures. I mean, he's writing from that samurai culture, which is very different to, for instance, if you were a merchant or a peasant. Yeah, this is very different. So this samurai culture has much involved in it, the Bushido culture, and also you understand that he's mentioned, like Confucius. He doesn't mention and Lao Tzu, Taoism. He doesn't mention Sun Tzu, but it would be it would be very remarkable if he was not aware and he hadn't read Sun Tzu. Yeah, he does reference it indirectly. And so these are there's probably other works as well that are important, but nonetheless, those three, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Taoism, very substantial major influences in that in region. I mean, they have become more influential in more modern times in the West, at least Taoism, much more so. Confucianism, not so much, right? Because Confucianism really, it's all about being a bureaucrat, really. That's the focus of it, right? But still, there's a lot of value in it, being disciplined, for instance, and stuff like that, right? So good character qualities. And Taoism as the way, Confucius calls it, at least Musashi references it as the way of virtue. um, but it's also the middle way, which he also references. And the middle way was something, the golden mean, it was called, also was something that was in ancient Greek, classic Greek period, which roughly contemporary with Confucius. This was a very big deal there then as well, right? So these are kind of historical influences and significances that have been around for a very long time. It's very interesting when you look at all of this in context, but also keeping in mind the samurai context. Yes, this is very key to be aware of and understand and know, because it's a very powerful subculture, right? That had a very strong hold on its members. Yes, and it's very rigid and very determined. Yes, peasant subculture, it kind of is what it is, and who you are and what you do is really sort of determined to a large extent by the needs of what you need to do. eh? It's not it's not specific codes for, well, you have to do things in this way. Well, but for the samurai, a lot of the behavior was proscribed. It's not prescribed, proscribed. In other words, set down. Like, for instance, if you committed seppuku, which is ritual suicide. Harikiri is just suicide, right? So there's a very big difference. So even how you commit suicide, there's a whole rigmarole to it, very specific, very detailed, how exactly it must be done, right? Very rigid, right? So a lot of the things were like that, right? And you were expected to behave in these ways. Musashi comes along, and while he doesn't break it, he does things which push those limitations, as we're going to see later on. I don't know how much of it's mentioned, but from other accounts of his sword fighting, he didn't quite follow the tradition, which wasn't necessarily you don't have to fight. Was you just like it just came to be assumed that you're supposed to do things. For instance, just holding the sword with two hands, right? That's how you are supposed to do it, and this is expected. There's no logic to it. It's like you're in a duel, you're fighting. It's the object is to win the fight, right? That's it. How doesn't matter. So Musashi comes along and he fights with two swords, two long swords, two katanas, one in each hand, right? Not even with a long one and a short one. Sometimes, yes, but mostly with two long swords. And it's a very big change. I mean, it's like when you have, it's like almost scandalous, is what I wanted to say. Is when you have such a rigid and defined way of doing things, and it becomes very stiff and it becomes very conservative. Change for conservatives is no, 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 no. You cannot change. You have to do things traditionally. If you go and change and you break this, then you wrong, then you bad, then you just like terrible. It's just like horrible. No, you can't. There's no real good reason for it, except just people get stuck in their ways, and anything new is just blows their mind and freaks them out. And Musashi coming to a duel and drawing two long swords. Like, what the hell? What are you doing? And already Musashi has an advantage just from that. In one of his most famous duels with Sasaki, is it Sasaki? Or am I confusing this with? No, yeah, Sasaki. I was thinking of Naruto's best friend and you know uh, glorious enemy for a long time, Sasuke. But maybe Sasuke came from Sasaki. I don't know. It's quite possible because a lot of references in Naruto. Anyway, Sasaki. So Sasaki is the the duelist at the time. He's the man, right? He's the poster boy for duelist. Does everything by the book, and he's rigid, and he's kind of a stiff character. as such are, but he's formal, in other words, right? And he's very precise. He's like exactly scrupulous. He's impeccable in what it means to be a sword fighter, right? Everything by the book, in other words. So Musashi is aware of his reputation and he applies fantastic strategy. Now, it doesn't come into his book, so this is just bonus extra information here, which I'm sharing. This background while hopefully we wait for Beena. Yeah, don't know what happened to Beena. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me message her and see. Beena, where you? 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 Anyway, so he arranges the duel with Sasaki. I'm not sure who challenged who. Yeah, I don't remember, but either way, Musashi sets the time and the place, and he says early in the morning on an island on a beach, right? Okay, well, no problem. So Musashi does a few things. First, he comes late. So he knows Sasaki being this formal, stiff guy, by the book letter, essentially kind of a bureaucrat mindset, that this is going to discombobulate Sasaki. It's going to throw him out. He's going to be annoyed and irritated and bothered. And this is not going to be good. All right. So, this is already put out by this. And so he comes over on a rowing boat, obviously, to the island. But on the way over, he carves himself basically takes one of the oars and just roughly carves it into more or less of a long weapon, right? But just a long wooden, I guess, not even a club. Maybe they could call it a boken, which is the wooden practice swords in the shape of a katana. But even that didn't qualify. It's essentially an oar that's just been shaped a little bit to make it a little bit more usable. So Musashi gets to the island, and, he hops out. Yes, I'm here. Now he's armed with this oar as a weapon. Again, like what the hell, Musashi? Come on, seriously? Again, poor Sasaki is like, what on earth is going on? But now he's like so out of shape and outraged and annoyed. Of course, he said Musashi waits for him there right on the water. Yes. Now, if you understand beaches and being on beaches, there's that hard area right close to the water. Between that area and where the softer sand is, right? So Musashi holds on that hard edge, forcing Sasaki to be in the softest sand, right? Which is difficult to move in. It's not ideal for sword fighting. If both have it, okay, but it's a severe disadvantage. So now, when you add all of this up, um, Sasaki is out. He's thrown out. He's put out of his comfort zone. He's applying psychological strategy pressure, and so Sasaki, by the time he gets there to Musashi, Musashi basically whacks him once over the head, and that's it. That's end of the fight. He kills him in that one blow with this oar. Right? End of duel. That's it. Right? So there was no contest of swords with Sasaki because I suspect that Sasaki was an actual, technically better swordsman. But being a better swordsman didn't make him a better duelist, didn't make him a better fighter. Yes, that's a very good lesson. Sasaki had all the skills and the form, but he didn't have any strategy. Yes, didn't have emotional fortitude, didn't have character to withstand this. He didn't say to Musashi, yeah, all right, you want to fight over there? I don't want to fight. You come here instead where I'm at, above the sand where it's nice firm ground or whatever. Simple things like that, and or when he's late, just leave and say, well, you're late. I'm not going to fight you on your terms. No, I'll fight you on my terms. You want to fight now? Say stuff like this, right? Didn't have any depth to him. All right, so let's go and read some more. We're getting to a very significant part of this, and it connects too much in this, that it's connecting to Zen. Yes, at least just from the title. Maybe the contents are going to be different from what I remember, but from a Zen point of view, this chapter heading is quite prominent. Ramsey! Ramsey Najai is in the house. Hello, hello, Ramsey. Very good, very good, very good. So you might know, Ramsey, that we're reading from Musashi's Book of Five Rings, right? So we're in the second book now, in the Water Book, and the section today is called uh, The Attitude of No Attitude Teaching. Right. So let me screen share. And we get, how are you, Ramsey? How are you? Are you well? And Sher's in the house as well. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Ah, I love this. I love this. Are we waiting for Beena? I don't know what happened. I spoke to her right before we came on, but then she said, "Oh, God, so must be something going on there." So we'll miss you, Beena, and hope you join soon. But things are what they are, just the way it goes. All right. So this attitude of no attitude. In Zen, it's referred to, at least in the Zen translations that I read. And once upon a time in my great reading project, I read the complete entire works of D.T. Suzuki on Zen, right? It was a huge, great, big, thick book like this, and many others too. Christmas Humphreys is a good translator of it, and does not just on Zen, but on Buddhism in general. Really excellent stuff. And he's very special, Christmas Humphreys. Very, very special. Oh, good, Ramsey. I'm glad you're good. Sure, I'm assuming you are good as well. All right. So in Zen, just a quick note on Christmas Humphreys while I talk about him. Um, he he consolidated the Buddhism. At least he said, look, there's so many different schools of Buddhism, different um, ways of going. There's the greater wheel and the lesser wheel in Tibetan. And he said, what are the common elements? And he made this like 16 points and 12 points. And he got all of them to agree. Yes, these are all common to Buddhism. And this is an English lawyer, barrister. It was a fantastic accomplishment. And it's really worthwhile. And he really gets to see Buddhism in its entirety rather than in the specifics. Because from from a Western point of view, if you're not familiar with Buddhism, it's hard to comprehend how vast, how huge, and how diverse Buddhism is. Yes, I mean, from Zen on the one hand, which came about as sort of a resistance a little bit to Buddhism becoming a religion. What the Buddha shared, what he taught, was absolutely not a religion, no worship, nothing. All right, brilliant, brilliant show. I'm glad you could also. This is fantastic. Well, anyway, so he put those common points to it, and it's quite an accomplishment. And it's very worthwhile reading. It's really good stuff, right? So, but he also wrote on Zen specifically. Now, in Zen Buddhism, this attitude of no attitude teaching is called the mind of no mind. Yes. So it is awareness without thinking, you could say. It's very powerful. Yes. And this is very, very strong point that is a big deal. Now, Zen and Shinto, all have these connections. All Shinto is intrinsic, but there is much of Buddhism in Japan also, right? So all of these are influences that are there, and it's helpful to understand them. But the main point of this attitude of no attitude is, in Way of Impeccability, we have a term for it: coexisting contradiction. They can coexist. Yes, trusting without trusting, believing without believing, accepting without accepting, thinking without thinking. You say, but, if you go into it a little bit, like trusting without trusting, it is contextual. If I go on a first date, I'm going to trust you when we're sitting in the restaurant, but I don't know anything about you. You want to go home with me before I get to know you? Well, no, that ain't going to work. See? So I trust you in the context of the restaurant. I trust you when, I'm in public, but I'm not going to trust you in private. See? So different context where they apply. So the same thing applies to many of these coexisting contradictions, like attitude of no attitude, mind of no mind, thinking without thinking. Yes. And it's that in one context you are doing it, in another context not. So this mind of no mind is to be aware but without thinking. Yes, so not having words and language. Yes, and in Musashi's context, in terms of sword fighting, you are going to be trained and you are going to act according to your training immediately. Now, in a greater context or way of impeccability context, by taking what we know, internalizing it, we are able to act without thinking because it's become our new defaults. Yes, things like power poses. This is a fantastic default to build into you. You're changing your habits, in other words. I don't have to think, I just do. Yes, that's very, very, very helpful and extremely potent. Now, of course, in sword fighting, it helps you with time. Yes, you can be instant, but in general in life, yes, if you are able to simply act without thinking, yes, you can do a lot, and your mind is free to think when needed, if needed. Yes, but there are times for thinking and there are times for acting. Yes, two different things. Because if you are thinking and acting both at the same time, you make both inefficient. So we want to be doing our thinking when we don't need to act. And when it comes time to act, I don't want to be having the need to think because I've already done what I need to do. Now, you can't prepare for the preciseness, but you can prepare in the abstract. Yes. And that's why appropriateness is so, so, so incredibly potent. And it's the one major, major philosophical, abstract conception, understanding, awareness, teaching, whatever you want to call it, that's missing from Musashi. He implies it, but he never says it, right? And when you read, you're going to say eventually, come on, man, just appropriateness, just say it already. All right, so let's read through this. This is helpful in our daily life, right? We're not just reading Musashi for the interest's sake as a historical book. No, we're reading it to gain value. This is intrinsic to Way of Impeccability. And everything that I'm doing, the whole group, it's always about Way of Impeccability at its core, right? Attitude of no attitude teaching. Attitude of no attitude means there is no need for what are known as longsword attitudes. Now, longsword, katana, right? Specifically. And this is what I was saying before. Yes, in this teaching that, or at least in the environment, the samurai culture, longsword katana fighting has very specific, right, attitudes or teachings. But attitudes, he means postures. So be aware that what we call attitude, like, eager, enthusiastic, surly, grumpy, antagonistic, whatever, that's not what he means. He means attitude as in like an architectural point of view, or a mechanical engineering, as in angles, right? So the five attitudes before, in the previous section, was uh, top, bottom, left, right, and middle. Right? Those were the five attitudes. So they aren't attitudes as we think of it yet, but they are specific angles or perspectives, stances, right? So the typical attitude of the samurai sword is the two hands. But we'll see now, right? But we're going to abstract this, right? But also this attitude of no attitude, at least if I remember correctly, it's connected to this idea of mind of no mind with Zen. But we'll see. Right? It means there is no need for what are known as longsword attitudes. In other words, throw out what you know from before. Get rid of all of that. Even so, attitudes exist as the five ways of holding the longsword. However you hold the sword, it must be in such a way that it is easy to cut the enemy well in accordance with the situation, the place, and your relation to the enemy. In other words, appropriateness, right? This is going to come up time and time again. It never says that, yeah? So learn to be appropriate. And, it's amazing that he never uses this word. Well, I don't know what the equivalent in Japanese is, but it's not only him. In Quran and in the Bible, same thing. The word is not mentioned. It's just not there. It doesn't exist, right? It's fascinating, right? But this uh, why is this so important to even say be appropriate? Isn't it a duh? No, it's not a duh, because in the teachings of schools you are taught very rigidly to do things in particular ways, and those work well in specific environments, but they don't work in different environments. Like with Sasaki, thrown out of his environment, his game, he couldn't handle it, he couldn't adapt. Yes, he didn't have that ability to shift as appropriate One smack, that was the end of him. Yeah. So, okay, we're not in actual little sword fights, but if we get into situations that are new and unfamiliar and we don't have the skill of being appropriate, we're going to be thrown out this combo. Doesn't matter. It might just be dealing with bureaucrats. It may be dealing with your parents, your children, your teachers, whatever, and your boss, workers, co-workers. In many situations, which if we don't have the ability to shift, and people are doing things that are unexpected, doing what they shouldn't do, etc., it can throw us out, right? So this ability to shift is very critical. And we see this so often in teaching. They teach you the exact way to do it. And then when the situation changes, I've mentioned this before about instincts. Many animals have instincts which help them tremendously, but those instincts only work in particular circumstances. If the circumstances change, the animals can't adapt. Right? So instincts is actually counter evolutionary. Yeah, they're a dead end. You don't evolve when you have instincts because you already know how to do it and you do it according to your instincts. Yeah, you're not growing, you're not learning. So we need to have this ability to be appropriate. Otherwise, evolution not going to happen. Yeah, because evolution is about adapting and yes, growing, changing. Yeah, which is of course you want to change and grow and adapt in the most appropriate way. Yeah, and appropriateness is having the goal and the context, awareness of both, and you can't be appropriate. All right. In accordance with the situation, the place, and your relation to the enemy. Yes, must be able to adapt. From the upper attitude, as your spirit lessens, you can adopt the middle attitude. And from the middle attitude, you can raise the sword a little in your technique and adopt the upper attitude. From the lower attitude, you can raise the sword a little and adopt the middle attitudes as the occasion demands, according to the situation. If you turn your sword from either the left side or right side attitude towards the center, the middle or the lower attitude results. Yeah. All right. Very simple, very basic stuff. It's amazing how he has to kind of spell this out. Yes. To have this connectivity between the different places, right? The different of sword fighting, right? And don't just always be, chopping in front of you or whatever. Learn to shift and flow and adapt and go all around, right? And we have some magic. We have some magic. Yes. So brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Hello.
Hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. Hello, Beena. Glad you're here.
Good
Glad you're
morning.
here. Yes.
Good
Good
morning. Good
mornings.
morning.
Good
Sorry for
mornings.
being late.
It's all
It
good.
was
Stuff
unavoidable.
happens. Stuff
Hello,
happens.
Ramzi. Hello, Shah.
Yeah.
Hello, Norma. Even if you are not
Yeah.
here, still I would say that. So
Yes. Yes.
hope
Hello,
everything
Norma.
is well. So please continue, sir.
All right. So yeah, you read from the next one on. I'll just finish this one. All right. So the principle is called existing attitude, non-existing attitude, flexibility, fluidity, and adaptability. In other words, don't be rigid. Don't be rigid. The primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy. Your intent to cut the enemy. All right, I'll just say, yeah, right, not intention, intent. There's a difference, but we won't get into that. It's common misusage of the word here. You have to have the intent to cut your enemy. I may stand there and have the intention to do so. That's very different to having the intent. Yes, and you see this literally, right? And Musashi mentions it before that you need to be absolutely thoroughly clear on that. That is your goal to cut the enemy. Sometimes, oh, I go, oh, I'm in a duel, but then when it comes, push comes to shove, and you actually you hesitate because, well, I'm actually damaging a human being. See, you have to be very clear. It has to be an intent, which means you're committed to doing it. You're going to do it no matter what. Right? All your energy is focused on this. And intention is simply an idea that this is kind of what I wish to do, hope to do. Yeah, wishes and hopes aren't actual doing. Yes, so an intention, very big difference. It's a primary misunderstanding of the term, the concept. And you know who's to blame? Wayne Dyer. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
You see, he wrote the book called The Power of Intention. And ever since then, intention was this word that was all around. It's like, it was a big deal at the time, kind of like a law of attraction, right? And manifesting. It's just a word that's out there and it sounds great and people use it without really knowing what they're talking about, right? But you think it through a little bit. I mean, where's the old expression, even longer back? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. What does that mean? Everybody knows this expression, at least in the West, in Christian environment. It's a common expression. Right? And there's equivalents in other cultures, other languages, other religions. Right? In other words, you can have all the good intentions. If you don't act on them, and they mean nothing. Yes? So you're still going to end up in the bad place, despite all your ideas of doing things. Why? Because you didn't actually do the things that you had the intention to do. They weren't intense. When it's an intent, you do it. You're going to be doing it. You are doing it. You're involved in the universe in doing it. It's a very big difference, right? So very important. This, yeah, very very important. Unfortunate, but it's also good in a way because that discernment makes the difference, right? And same thing with Musashi. He's made this very clear, and I suspect this is a translation error again, right? He made it very clear that early on that you have to have this as an intent to cut your enemy, not kill them necessarily, but cut them, right? And I elaborated on that yesterday to say is also you have to have the detailed intent. It's cut without yourself being unnecessarily and unduly damaged, and to cut significantly. I mean, a cut could be just a scratch. No, that's not what you're looking to do. You're looking to a cut here means injure or wound. All right. But anyway, we're not talking about sword fighting. We're talking about action, doing, right? We're not interested in the technical sword fighting so much as abstracting the value from it in the overall. Right. Right. The primary thing when you take your sword in your hand is your intent to cut the enemy. I'm going to read it as intent because that makes much more sense. So same thing. You take your pen in your hand, your pencil, your paintbrush, just your musical instrument. Yes. When you pick that up, don't have an intention to write. You're going to end up with writer's block then. Have the intent to write. Yes, that means you get to doing right away. No messing about. You do. Doesn't matter how well you're doing. You're going to learn on the job. That's fine too. That's okay. Yes, but an intent is doing. Intention is wishing and hoping and going nowhere, right? So same thing. When you take up, we'll just call the pen and the sword because the pen is mightier than the sword. So we'll just right when you take your pen in your hands. Yeah. The primary thing when you take your pen, your paintbrush in your hands is your intent to cut the enemy. All right. Now we're going to replace cut the enemy with doing something meaningful, doing something significant, doing something purposeful, doing something valuable, doing something useful. That can include joy. Yes. Play is useful and valuable because it brings joy. Yeah. So be aware. When you parry, hit, spring, strike, or touch the enemy's cutting sword, you must cut the enemy in the same movement. This is a very simple thing here, but it goes to a very deep underlying psychology. I spoke about this yesterday. Yes. We tend to think one step at a time. Yes. So when he says here, right, look at all the one steps that he mentions, right? Hitting, springing, striking, touching the enemy. Yes, those are all actions. But when the typical person who's trained in this, that's all they do. Once they've done it, then it's like, oh, now what? Yes. And typically they react in terms of the next what, right? And okay, if the enemy's not doing something, the next one might be again attack. But still, it's attack, and you do your one stroke attack or whatever you're doing to attack or moving or whatever, and then it's like you have to start all over again. You're always starting at one and you end at one. But Musashi says no. When you do this, right, you must you must think of what's the next thing, which is to uh, to cut the enemy, right? So whenever you do those actions, hitting, springing, striking, parrying, whatever, blocking, whatever, you must think of it the same movement. So when I move to the side, getting out of your sword, I'm moving to the side to avoid your stroke, but at the same time, I'm cutting you, right? So he's doing two things in once. There's a continuity. He's thinking things through to the end. Achieve your objective, maintain your intent. Don't forget this, right? So whatever you do, yes, you've got that intent, but have the intent to finish it and continue. Don't just stop there. So this is continuity. It's continuity. And it's just that moreness thinking. Go more, go further, think it through to the end. Don't just stop here, right? Always be understanding your objective. And it's quite radical. It sounds so simple, but in actuality, it's quite radical. It's quite amazing, right? So you gotta think more. Gotta think more, right? If it is essential. So let me read that sentence. Whenever you parry, hit, spring, strike, or touch the enemy's cutting sword, you must cut the enemy in the same movement. It is essential to attain this. If you think only of hitting, springing, striking, or touching the enemy, you will not be able actually to cut him. Yes, or her. More than anything, you must be thinking of carrying your movement through to cutting him. You must thoroughly research this. Yeah. Application. Think about it. Yeah. Research it. Do it. Understand what it means. Yes. In other words, you're going to have a movement now. It's instead of being in a small part, it's going to be a greater, right? So you're going to do one overall thing that comprises smaller parts. It's the beginnings of abstract thinking as a philosophy, right? He's not quite saying that because, again, it's not a good communicator. There's not, yes, he is sophisticated when it comes to swords, but he's not a sophisticated writer, communicator, thinker, right? So this is very, very powerful. And when we have this greater conceptuality, this is what our dictionary of power and wave of impeccability is all about, right? You're going to include things that you can apply in any situation because you're looking at the overall, right? You're looking at the bigger picture. You've got your overall clarity of intent. So when you're acting according to that, what am I doing? Well, I'm not just doing the life. I'm taking care of my spirit. Yes, for instance, I'm preparing for my death. I'm implying and employing joyfulness. I'm building relationships, whatever. I'm doing all sorts of multiple things in one action. So the totality is included in the moment. Yes, that's very powerful to include the totality in the moment. If you want to put it into a conception, yes, put that in your dictionary of power. Yes, the totality, applying the totality in the moment. Very cool. All right. Attitude in strategy on a larger scale is called battle array. Such attitudes are all for winning battles. Fixed formation is bad. Study this well. Yeah, don't be rigid. Be fluid. Be flexible. Yes. Be appropriate. In other words, very, very important. Would you? Oh, I was just going to say, would you like to read, Beena? The screen went black for a second there.
Yes, yes, I saw that.
Oh, still going black. What's going on here? Oh, I hope it's not going to reboot. Okay, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I don't know why I did that. Okay. Wait. Okay. Yeah. The abdomen timing of 2. Will you read from there, please, Beena? Come
Okay.
on. When it stabilizes. There we go. Please go ahead.
Okay. I was just sharing my Instagram videos also. So yeah, we
Oh,
continue.
very good. Very good. Yeah, actually, you know what? Before you continue, let me go and
Yes.
see there what's happening on Instagram. Uh, because it just says, oh, yes, there
Yes.
we go. Cookie Puda 5 has joined us. And Nazia, hey, Nazia, brilliant, brilliant. I know Nazia. I know Nazia, so very good. Nazia writing a book, and she shared a poem yesterday. Very beautiful, very powerful, very awesome poem. And Sid has also joined. So hello
Yes.
and welcome to all of you. Please leave a comment if anything, even if it's a smiley face, doesn't matter. They just it heightens the connectivity there and the relevance, right? So very helpful. So yeah, please ask questions. If you have any questions, please ask. Or comments, please make them. You know, anything doesn't matter. Please go ahead, Beena. Oh,
The abdomen of timing of 2. The abdomen timing of 2.
the
When you
abdomen,
attack,
abdomen.
abdomen. The abdomen timing of 2. When you attack and the enemy quickly retreats, as you see him tense, you must feint a cut. Feint a cut. Then, as he relaxes, follow up and hit him. This is the abdomen timing of 2. It is very difficult to attain this by merely reading this book, but you will soon understand with a little instruction. No
Right.
design, no conception.
And so just on that previous section there, right?
Yes,
Where
yes.
from a way of impeccability point of view, how would this work? Okay, where is this applied? In ADU, awareness, discernment, and understanding. Capital H hearing. We go a little further into Moreness-Project, right? It is learning to perceive nuance. That's discernment. Learning to perceive layeredness, nuance, right? You're not just looking and observing your enemy to see where he strikes, where he attacks, where he's open, and where you can attack. No, you're also looking at how he's tensing, how he's relaxing, his attitude, his mindset. And if you're really skilled, now Musashi doesn't mention this, pay attention to someone's intent. Now, we don't have to be in a sword fight for this to be valuable. This is absolutely crucial when it comes to interacting with clients, for instance, from a therapeutic counseling point of view. Yes, it's a very big deal. It's a very big deal. Yeah, yeah. Very good. Thank you, Sarah, for Sid, for your comments there. So, having that nuanced understanding is very, very, very helpful. Yes, to pay attention to these things, to see how people are relaxing and tensing, for instance, where there's stress, and especially in a personal interactivity point of view, not just counseling, but also dealing with your friends. We don't always know what's going on inside of us. So what we say and what's going on inside don't always correspond. And that's the same thing in sword fighting. The external behavior doesn't necessarily reveal the internal intent. Yeah. So you want to learn to distinguish between the two. And that's the point here, right? All right. This is a very specific thing here of where there's an opening, tense, relax, going, okay. But the underlying bigger concept is in order to apply this, yeah, you need to not only practice it but be aware of such things, yes, and not just look this. So that discernment, the skill of discernment, and you need some awareness first, but the discernment skill lead you to understanding. Very, very powerful. All right, please continue, Beena.
Okay. No design, no conception. In this method, when the enemy attacks and you also decide to attack, hit with your body and hit with your spirit and hit from the void with your hands, accelerating strongly. This is the no design, no conception cut. This is the most important method of hitting. It is often used. You must train hard to understand it.
Now this is actually very useful in golf. Yeah. Golf and sword fighting have a lot of similarities. I mean, one, we were talking about the grip yesterday, right? Where it's very
Yes.
specific about gripping with two fingers. That's exactly how golf is, right? You start, so this is very, very powerful because it changes the way the hand works. So now it's a little bit more specific and precise, but in a deeper way. Golf is fantastic because, first of all, if you take anybody who's never played golf before, and you say, "Well, here's a golf club. There we go. What do you think is what you need to do?" Well, I'm supposed to hit the ball. Hit. How do you hit? You hit with your arms. Very poor way of going about it, right? So when you
Mm.
want to get maximum value, really, when you start playing golf really well, you don't actually even use the arms as there's no actual tension in the arms. You turn your shoulders and like those little drums that have the little strings with the balls and kids toys, right? It makes the noise. That's basically the same conception. You turn your body and the arms come along with it, right? And you're going to play with your feet. It's about shifting. It's about moving your weight, right? So you leverage, you turn your body, you leverage all that into the back foot, which kind of presses firmly into the earth. If you don't do that, you don't anything. And then you push from there and turn the body, and the arms just come automatically. And then you coming from the void here in golf. It feels like you're doing the impossible. But thing swings and the ball goes, but I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. I did nothing. It's unbelievable. It's the whole. Biala has a book on this called Golf with Grace, uh, and she describes this in detail. But the magic of it, from a learning point of view, from an awareness point of view, discernment, understanding point of view, application point of view, is that some things they are when you do them in a particular way They are so easy that it seems impossible. Actually, when you do this right in golf, you cannot believe what you've done because you get a fantastic result and say, but I didn't do anything. It's just impossible. The mind refuses. You can do it over and over and over again. It's incredible. Right? So this applies to many things. And it's really about attunement, harmony, utilizing the various factors. So when we look at this simple mechanism here, golf or swordplay, and we take it all the way to the end, we get attunement. It's about leveraging. And in golf now specifically, and in sword fighting, right? You need that, like in golf, you need that firm anchor. You're leveraging into the foot. You're loading tension into the back foot, right? You're connecting to the earth. See, bigger picture. Without that, nothing of the rest works. This is the same thing with attunement. Yes, you're going to have that anchor, and you're going to put some energy into connecting to the greater force. And through that, you get this leverage spring action, you could call it, right? You wind up and then you release, right? But it doesn't take much. It takes very minimal energy on my part because I'm utilizing leverage. Yes. And when you do this and you have that relaxedness, you have appropriateness, right? And you get this moreness that comes, right? You're able to go very fluidly, very quickly, very efficiently, very effectively, minimum energy. Yeah? So very, very powerful stuff here. When we really understand this and when we take it into the abstract and apply it to attunement, it's unbelievable, right? Because attunement is all about leveraging what is there already, right? By you adjusting to it, adapting to it, fluid, flexible, right? It's very, very powerful. So kind of magic stuff, but it's real, you know. I mean, it sounds magical, like when you play golf, or at least the way I teach golf, golf with grace, Biala golf. It's incredibly magical, and it's just simply performing this action. You do it, and suddenly the ball goes flying beautifully, and it's like, wow! It just feels so brilliant. It feels so magical. It really is a thrill. So never mind playing the game. You just can do this on the range. You don't have to even go play. You know, it's irrelevant, right? Doesn't matter. So very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. It's a joy. It's a joy. It's like a meditation. A very cool exercise. But we can have this in our daily lives as well, right? You load up a bit of energy appropriately, and as appropriate, you release it. But there's not that grind effort. You watch people who start to play. Every stroke, it's like they're looking to smack the cover off the damn ball. They put maximum effort into it. When I started playing, I used to do that. And it's not nearly as effective, right? It's very difficult to actually get any kind of accuracy and stuff like that. I mean, it's an over excessive, inappropriate use of force. Fascinating, right? No leverage. Really, really interesting stuff. All right, please continue, Beena.
Yes. Okay. My screen is a bit messed up.
Okay, I'll read. The flowing water cut. The
Okay,
flowing
now I
water.
can read.
Oh, okay, go
Sorry.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. No problem. Go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead.
The flowing water cut. The flowing water cut is used when you are struggling blade to blade with the enemy. When he breaks and quickly withdraws, trying to spring with his long sword, expend your body and spirit and cut him as slowly as possible with your long sword. Following your body like stagnant water, you can cut with certainty if you learn this. You must discern the enemy's grade. Now, continuous cut. When you attack and the enemy also attacks and your sword spring together in one action, cut his head, hands, and legs. When you cut several places with one sweep of the long sword, it is the continuous cut. You must practice this cut. It is often used with detailed practice. You should be able to understand it.
Yeah. It is often used, full stop. With detailed practice, you should be able to understand it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Again, you
fire
know,
and
it's that adaptability, fluidity, and also greater conceptuality. Yes, this is our dictionary of power. It is taking smaller understandings and combining them into bigger ones, right? And going all the way to the most abstract. Same thing one continuous cut. Instead of making three cuts, a cut at the head, then a cut at the hands, then a cut at the legs. No, you can do it in one cut, right? And you may not succeed in the first one or even the second one, but likely you're going to get the third one. And then if you don't get any of them, you can just continue that cut and sweep back up again, for instance. Yes. So it's this continuity, looking at your big picture. Never forget, right? Keep going, keep going. Yeah. Don't do things in little segments. Keep that continuity through
Hmm.
clarity of intent. That's the key. Yeah. Clarity of intent, right? You got an objective.
Yes. The fire and the stones cut. The fires and stones cut means that when the enemy's long sword and your long sword clash together, you cut as strongly as possible without raising the sword even a little. This means cutting quickly with the hands, body, and legs, all three cutting strongly. If you train well enough, you will be able to strike strongly.
Right. So this is what I was saying about golf, right? If you and the motion in golf, actually, by the way, right? It's same to the downward cut, like an axe, like chopping an axe. Yeah. But you're going to do that same motion, except you're going to turn to the side and do it, right? So most, especially in America, we tend to think of a golf swing as kind of just a little bit of an angled baseball swing. You're kind of going around the body. No, not really. In golf, actually, you're going to turn and your arms are, you're looking to take your arms out backwards behind you along the line, the target line, the line of your ball is going to be traveling, right? So, but it's the same movement. So you're standing with your golf club, and as you turn your body, your arms raise up and as far back behind you as possible. In reality, there's going to be some angle, but conceptually, you're turning this. And then when you turn the shoulders, right? When you're doing this and you turn the shoulders, what happens? Your arms are up here and they pull downwards. It's the most powerful action you are able to perform with the body in this mechanism, right? And when you do this with the body and the feet are planted, you've got that leverage. Like when you're pushing a heavy wardrobe, right? You got to really anchor your foot and you push with your shoulder, right? You're pushing against the ground to move that cupboard. Try pushing it with your arms only. Nothing happens, right? If you push with your arms only without having your body anchored, you just push your body back. Yes. Pushing something works okay if it's lighter and smaller than you, but not so, right? But we the ball is lighter and smaller, so we can do it to the ball, but it's very poor usage of energy, right? So when he's talking about this, understand this, and in the greater abstract conceptuality, be aware to do things with the totality of yourself, not just parts. Yes, we can get caught up in the detail. Like some people even try just hit with their hands, even only, right? So very, very, very powerful. And also, when I teach golf, and I'm really excellent golf teacher, I don't mean to praise myself, but really, really good, right? It's something that I know very, very well. The first thing I say to anybody is golf is a game of opposites. Yeah. You think you must hit the ball. No, 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 no. It's a golf swing and it's a movement. You're playing golf with your shoulders, with your feet. That's it. You're not hitting with your hands or your arms. You're not hitting even. Yes, you're doing something else entirely. Right. And also, in order for the ball to go up, you got to hit down at it. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. It's quite amazing. A lot of things like that, right? I mean, if you swing from right to left across the ball, the ball will go not to the left, but it will curve out to the right. Yeah, opposite. See, a lot of opposite stuff in golf. It's quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, and there's so much of it. But when we understand that life is like this, also things aren't so obvious. And philosophy of opposite, I have a whole philosophy of opposite. It doesn't just apply to golf; it applies to much. As a matter of fact, I'll write a whole book on that. 50 ways to be smart using opposites. Actually, more than 50. So we'll have to call it 50 plus, right, Beena? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, this just understanding that there's more to these things, right? That's it. It's about really saying, don't go by the obvious. The obvious isn't always obvious, and the obvious can be very misleading sometimes. Yes, like I was explaining to Beena, if you watch people who've never shot a bow and an arrow before, never even, don't have anything, no awareness of it, what do? They pick up the bow and they hold it in front of them like this, and they pull, and then their hand bumps against the body, but they don't adapt. That's not working. You can only pull the bow so far, and then they shoot with it, and the arrow just goes a little way. It's horribly ineffective. But what fascinates me is I understand you picking it up like this and well, I didn't realize that I was going to bump into my hand. See, they didn't think a little further. They didn't see a way. Right? When you turn it sideways, of course, now you say, well, I need to move it a little bit sideways, and you pull like this. Yeah, but now it pulls your hand in front of you. Keep going, and you have your arm nice stiff out. You're pulling now, and the force is pulling your arm into the body, not across. You see, you're maximizing your effort this way. Anyway, it's just a simple matter of trial and error. It just takes a few seconds, okay, and then you figure it out. But you need to have that continuity, and you need to have the ability to not get stuck in your original assumption of what should be. But this is like, well, obviously you must do it this way. Why? Says who? Well, it's in front of me and the enemy's there. And see, it seems obvious, but it's not obvious, right? Very, very, very important to have this be not focused on what things should be, but on what's working. It should be like this, but it's not working. Adapt to what actually works, usefulness and value. Make this your goal. The moment, this isn't working, this isn't useful and value, all right, and you start adjusting, and you end up with your arm all the way out, and you're pulling along your arm like that, right? It's just very simple stuff, but the abstract thinking is what's important to get you there. I see this all the time where people get stuck. You can watch them in their jobs, in their work. They do what they think they're supposed to do, and when that doesn't work, then they can't change. Well, I don't want to look like I was wrong. You are wrong. End of story. Whether you want to look that way or not, it's too late now, right? Adapt rather than just making a bigger fool of yourself but through your ego. So this is very key. And in sword fighting, right? There are dozens of examples of people dying because of this. Yes. Now, I've talked about this before about idiots looking for fights with professional fighters, right? And the master in the dojo and all this. Now they don't die, but they do get beaten up. They do get injured. They do get hurt. Yes, significantly so. Yeah. Now back in the day, it was the thing to go and challenge the sword master in the dojo. Many fools died. Those same guys who went to the dojo and got beaten up back in the day in sword fighting day, you die as a result of this. So yeah, serious if you're not able to get past your idea of how you conceive of things. You just can't think, oh, this is the brilliant way. This is what I'm going to do. No, you got to test it. You got to practice it. You got to apply it. Yeah. Don't just go by belief only. Yes, usefulness and value. Be real, be real, be real. All right, please continue, Beena. I will say bye-bye to all the YouTube people. Sorry, the Instagram people. We're going to
Yes.
be leaving you over there now.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Ramsey had a comment there on Instagram. Uh, okay. I didn't see your comment on Instagram. Sorry, Ramsey. I closed it just too late because it only lasts an hour with Instagram. Right? So I have to end it there. All right. So I'm not sure what you said there, Ramsey, but if you can see Beena, that would be good.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just a little strange with Instagram. I'm trying to figure out there to save it into my archive so that I can make it download it from there as a post, but it's not working yet. I messaged them for help. I haven't heard back yet. So, all right, please continue, Beena. Please continue.
Okay. The red leaves cut. The red leaves cut means knocking down the enemy's long sword. The spirit should be getting control of his sword. When the enemy is in a long sword attitude in front of you and intent on cutting, hitting, and parrying you, strongly, you strong, sorry, and parrying, you strongly hit the enemy's long sword with the fire and stones cut, perhaps in the spirit of the no design, no conception cut. If you then beat down to the point of his sword with a sticky feeling, he will necessarily drop the sword. If you practice this cut, it becomes easy to make the enemy drop his sword. You must train repetitively.
All right. So again, the abstract here is something that poor communication from Musashi once again. Mhm. Right. Now, what he's saying is that when you do something, you have to add intent to it. And this you need to go and actually demonstrate to show this. Right? When you knock down an enemy sword, you parry it, you block it. If you're just doing that, or you're doing it with that stickiness adds a slightly very fine, nuanced extra muscle application, your body, your weight, your movement, everything, right? It's nuanced. It's hard to describe in detail. You've got to just demonstrate it, pray, and feel it for yourself. But that stickiness, your sword isn't literally sticky, but it's sticking to the other guy's sword, but it feels like it does. And this is how you can disarm them, right? If you use it at the right time, right? Because they're not expecting this, and it's a force and a pull in a different direction to what they're expecting. Right? It's again, you are using what he calls spirit, what we would call attitude. His attitude is angle and perspective, but we're talking about attitude as an emotional weight. But really, it's more than that. It's intent. Right? So when you do the intent to just block and knock it away, yeah, that's like bounce it. That's a very different intent to deflecting it, pushing it. Yeah, and it's another thing to have the stickiness, which now becomes kind of a pull on his sword. Right? So very, very different things. This intent is very, very, very powerful. So when I teach golf, right, first thing, it's a game of opposites. Secondly, I say it is all about how you conceive what you are doing. The newbie coming to the ball, well, okay, I'm going to hit it, and I have to hit it up in the air. And they literally try and do this. Yes, but if your ball's lying on the ground, in order to hit it up into the air, you're going to have to go under the ground first to have an upward angle towards the ball that's sitting on the ground. Can't do this. You're going to hit into the ground, and you're going to chunk it, right? You can't do it. But yet they try. They try somehow. They can't figure out how, but they're trying to do something that's not possible, right? Square circle idea. Square circle logic is really powerful. We come to believe something impossible is possible, and we try and do it. Yeah. And it's amazing. So they continually try over and over and over. Yeah, but it must be. And they don't think this has got to be some other way, because this cannot be. Yeah. So when you're hitting down on the ball, you're going to put backspin in it. You kind of bounce the ball off the ground, the technicality. But the point here is that learn to not be sticky in your thinking. Yes, if it doesn't work, change it. Sometimes doing what you think is the thing to do, the very opposite is the thing to do. This is the power of the philosophy of opposite. Yes, like in golf, hitting the ball up into the air, unless you've got it teed up, then you can do it. But when that, you only allow that on the first tee, on the tee. When you're hitting the ball anywhere else, it's on the ground, right? So you have to find different ways of doing this. It's very, very powerful. And you know what? In golf, the club is designed to do this. Yeah. So it's quite fascinating. I mean, you hit a ball of concrete and goes up into the air. Well, you didn't hit up at it, so how did you do that? The angle of the blade deflects it and makes it goes up. That's the whole point of it, right? It's just amazing how much it depends on conceptuality. Yes. So when you change your conception of what you're trying to do, first of all, you're trying to hit it with your arms. Same thing, you're playing with your body, your feet. Oh, different conception. You're not trying to hit it up. Oh, different conception. It's all about your center of mass, moving your energy in the right place. Oh, okay. See, you're doing different things. Yeah? Changing your intent, changing your conception. And when we do this in life in general, incredibly, incredibly, incredibly powerful. Right? So just to understand this, all of these things, Musashi is saying it in very specific ways, but the underlying abstract of it is there. Right? It's very useful to pay attention to. All right, let's see how far we've got to go here with all these cuts. Oh, there's a whole bunch of them here. Okay. Uh, Okay. I think what we'll do, Beena, is we'll just read. I've explained a lot. Unless something comes up that's very important to comment on, I will I will keep it. Where were we? Yeah, the red leaves cut. I'll keep the commentary to a minimum so we can get through this. All right.
Okay.
You try and get to the end of this book, yeah, because now it's all very
Yes.
specific.
Yes.
Like I say, I will just.
Yes.
It's all the same thing. It's just repetitive now, right?
Okay. Okay. The body in place of the long sword. Also, the long sword is place of the body, in place of the body. Usually, we move the body and the sword at the same time to cut the enemy. However, according to the enemy's cutting method, you can dash against him with your body first, and afterwards cut with the sword. If his body is immovable, you can cut first with the long sword, but generally you hit first with the body and then cut with the long sword. You must research this well and practice hitting.
Right.
Cut and
Non-obvious,
slash.
non-obvious. Strike with your
Yes.
body. In a sword fight, you think it must all be about the sword fight. When I had the sword and knife store. Sorry, this is kind of an important point here, right? Again, it's about obviousness, attention, focus. What am I doing? What am I doing? People want to buy knives for self-defense. I always talk them out of it. Yeah, I'm taking my business away from myself, but still, my integrity won't allow it. Because if you have a knife for self-defense and you don't know what you're doing, you think your defense is in the knife. All your attention is on the knife. Anybody who has even a little bit of awareness about this, first thing they do is just kick the hell out of you. You'll never see those kicks coming because your attention, your focus is all on the knife. The knife is going to save me. The knife is going to defend me. You're not thinking about kicking. You're not prepared for kicking. See? Strike with the body, yeah, not the sword. See, I mean, the other
Yeah.
person may have a knife in their hand too, and you paying attention to their knife, your knife, all your attention on the knife. You don't see that kick coming. One good place kick takes out your knee, kick you in the groin. That's the end of you. See, powerful stuff. Be aware, bigger picture, bigger picture. Don't get stuck in specifics.
Yes.
Your overall intent in mind. That's it. See, always overview perspective, overall intent.
Yes.
Get lost in the details. Please keep going, Beena.
Yes. Cut and slash. To cut and to slash are two different things. Cutting, whatever form of cutting it is decisive with a resolute spirit. Slashing is nothing more than touching the enemy. Even if you slash strongly and even if the enemy dies instantly, it is slashing. When you cut, your spirit is resolved. You must appreciate this. If you first slash the enemy's hand or legs, you must then cut strongly. Slashing is in a spirit, the same as touching. When you realize this, we become indistinguishable. Learn this well. I'm trying to
Slashing.
stay
Yeah.
in the abstract concept of that, but it is like really getting into horrible details.
No, I know, but still, slashing is to do without intent. It is a stroke, a swipe, moving the sword in some way or another without a specific intent to cut. It's just moving the sword towards the direction of a limb. You may succeed in it, but it's not the same thing. If you do this with static objects, you'll very soon, like, if you're cutting bamboo or something, you very quickly
Mhm.
see the difference between a slash and a cut. Right? It
Okay.
doesn't have penetration. It doesn't follow through. It's not very effective, right? And when the things are quite hard to cut, a slash will probably bounce off of it or not penetrate very well. So yeah, it's all about intent. That's the difference here, right? Intent, intent, intent. With resolute
Yes.
spirit, with intent. See,
Yes.
resolute spirit, intent. Okay.
Chinese monkey's body. The Chinese monkey's body is the spirit of not stretching out your arms. The spirit is to get in quickly, without in the least extending your arm before the enemy cuts. If you're if you are intent upon not stretching out your arms, you are effectively far away. The spirit is to go in with your whole body. When you come to within arm's reach, it becomes easy to move your body in. You must research this well. Do
Uh,
you
Again,
have
it's maintaining your center. Maintaining your
okay?
center. Yeah? If you stretch your body too far, you become overbalanced. This is the principle of Aikido. Aikido is very effective against inexperienced, inappropriate aggression. Professionals, it doesn't work because they keep their center. so you can't overextend them and then leverage them, right? So the same principle here. Maintain your center, maintain your balance. Don't overextend. You get unbalanced. Same thing in life. Keep your center. Don't overextend. So the principle, right? Very powerful. Same thing implies in golf, especially. Any golfers out there listening, overextending is why most golfers slice. Yeah, they overextend, swing too fast, they have no balance, they go past the line of things, and then they have to put it back in, and now you're coming from the outside in, and that's what gives you your slice, right? Very simple, very simple. Overextending, yeah, from being too violent and having no anchor, yeah, having your weight falling forward, yeah, yeah, not being centered, yeah, not counter leveraging, not counterbalancing. All right, please continue, Beena.
Okay. Glue and lacquer emulsion body. The spirit of glue and lacquer emulsion body is to stick to the enemy and not separate from him. When you approach the enemy, stick firmly with your head, body, and legs. People tend to advance their head and legs quickly, but their body lags behind. You
Yeah,
should stick firmly so that there is not the slightest gap between the enemy's body and your body. You must consider this carefully.
yeah, yeah. Move as a whole. Move as a whole. Yeah, we don't do this. That's really interesting. I think sure, you write by hand. That's very interesting. If you're writing next time, if you're still listening, write with your body as well as your hand. Right? You understand what I mean? And now you're not going to sit and move your body, but when you have that connectivity that you're involving your body in your writing, it's going to be very different because there's much intent and feeling and energy that comes from your body, and it will actually some ease some or sewing maybe. Yeah, many applications doesn't matter. But again, when you're doing things out here with your hand, overbalanced, imbalanced, do it as a whole. That's the abstract here. Do things as a whole. Don't separate out the parts. Yeah, this is very interesting. The next one.
To strive for height. By to strive for height is meant when you close with the enemy to strive with him for superior height without cringing. Stretch your legs, stretch your hips, and stretch your neck face to face with him. When you think you have won and you are the higher, thrust in strongly. You must learn this.
Physical intimidation in its most basic form. You don't even have to be bigger to do this. I've seen many small people, tiny people, who can intimidate others because they know how to do this. Yeah, they stretch their spirit. They're not actually physically bigger, but it's all about the spirit of intimidation, right? And power and implication and confidence, trust, etc. Authority. Many factors are involved in this, but it's a non-obvious thing. Yes, non-obvious, but that's mostly what this is. There are many different things in the world, right?
Yes. Okay. To apply stickiness
Oh, sure
when
says,
the
sure says, wow, what a shift. Yes, it is, sure. Yes, it very much is. Especially if you think of this like you're sitting at the sewing machine, right? If you're sitting too far away, you're working with your hands out here and you essentially got to support the arms, which is tiring. Move in closer, so again, the whole conception. Now you're working right here. Yes, and as you're doing, you're utilizing the body, the hands move as well, yes, but you're using that extra leverage saves a lot of energy. And also when you put intent into it, like in the writing, and change the action much, but you're going to have the intent of the body. You're writing right from the bottom of your guts, your inside, your heart, your soul, the bottom of your spine, right all the way from the soles of your feet. There's a reason soul and soul are called the same word. Yeah. So you write with your feet even. Just think of it. Just imagine it. Just sit there, write or type with your feet involved. Wow, wow. Suddenly I'm bringing oh man, you bringing more ideas, mindset, attitudes, intents, greater wholeness into what you're doing. Yes, it's a massive shift. It's a massive shift. Massive shift. Please continue, Beena.
To apply stickiness, when the enemy attacks and you also attack with the longsword, you should go in with a sticky feeling and fix your longsword against the enemy's as you receive his cut. The spirit of stickiness is not hitting very strongly, but hitting so that the longsword does not separate easily. It is best to approach as calmly as possible. When hitting the enemy's longsword with stickiness, the difference between stickiness and engagement is that stickiness is
Entanglement.
firm and entanglement, oh yes, entanglement is that stickiness is firm and entanglement is weak. You must appreciate this.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
body strike.
yeah. So stickiness and
The
entanglement
body
are two
strike
different things.
means,
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. You can
yes,
try this. You can try this with somebody, right? Okay, you don't want to actually go fighting, but have them put their hands up, and then you go, and instead of blocking their hands, just put your hands on their hands. Just hold their hands very lightly with your fingers. Yes. Then when they pull away, you're not holding with your arms. You're just kind of sticking. So you're just holding with the fingers. So then when they try and punch or withdraw, your hand stays with them. And as they punch toward you, you can just move the hand a little bit out of the way. And actually, if you get that that sticky hands on it, it's called sticky hands in martial arts. It's a very well-known technique, right? And what happens is that you can essentially control them, but you're not using any force. Because I'm not trying to push your hand because now I'm initiating the force. You trying to pull away and I just go with my hand behind you. And when you pull up here, then I push a little bit more into your hand and I overbalance you. It's an incredibly effective technique, but it really demonstrates this difference between sticky and entangled. Now, if I'm entangled, well, our arms are wrapped together and I'm clawing on, I'm holding, and this is a whole different deal. Stickiness is very loose. There's a calmness. And same thing, it's touching lightly, touching the world lightly, the same thing. And you have that ability to touch and allow the movement to move you, but at the same time, you stay in control. It's another variation of what I call leading, the art of leading by walking backwards. Yeah. So the same concept here. Minimal effort on my part. You think you're in charge. You're the one doing the hitting and the striking and the resisting. All I'm doing is just as you do that, I just move a little bit slightly, right? So I mean, if I put gross force on your arms and try and force your hand back, I got to work very hard. If you pull them back, I just add a little bit to your existing force, and I can overbalance you. Or you try and hit me, I just move you slightly to the effort, and off you go to the side. See, very simple, very simple, very effective. And do this with a sword as well. Right? Understanding things aren't always the way they work. Yeah, very powerful. When I was a youth and had to deal with kids that were being troublesome, I would simply take my hand and close my fingers around their wrist. Yes, just like this, small, hold it around the wrist, right? Just like this. Yeah. So now that's right there on the wrist. I mean, I can almost do it on my wrist. My wrist is just a little bit too thick because you feel the pressure. But on a kid's arm, I'm just holding it, and there's no pressure on their arm at all. But of course, when they pull away, they're pulling into the circle. Right? So I just hold them. And I'm not doing anything to the kid, but they can't really move, run away, misbehave, whatever. And they very soon get to realize their actions are the ones that cause them stress. They'll pull out, oh, you're hurting me. No, I'm not. I say, you hurting yourself. You're pulling into this. Stop resisting. And I'm not doing anything to you. And change their brain a little bit, right? It was very effective for them because then it wasn't me saying, come here, trying to push them and pull them, which they would resist against. It was them resisting against something that was just there. Kind of sweet. It was very effective. It was very effective. Very simple technique, but kind of a different
yes.
application of stickiness in a very practical way, right? You can fuss and bother all you like. That's it. Not going to
It's a
help
big,
you.
it's a lesson for, of course, even for
Yeah.
adults. Right now,
Yep.
we create a stress
Exactly.
by pushing things so hard, like really.
Exactly.
When you
Exactly.
when you do that, when you do things with the clarity of intent, and of course with honesty and
Yeah.
self-trust, then you don't need to
Yeah.
push anything, no agenda, nothing, because
Yeah.
that caused really all the problems. Otherwise, you are free, you done your part, you did, and then
Yeah,
now, okay, just let it be.
yeah,
This is very profound.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not that the technique itself, of course, that
yeah,
was also very practical, but and unusual. But the perspective on that, that okay, I'm not doing anything.
yeah,
You are causing
yeah,
yourself a problem. That learning is so profound. So, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I skipped a couple sections because it's just very technical again, but this one is kind of cool. It has some moreness to it. So please read this: to stab at the face.
Okay. To stab at the face means when you are in confrontation with the enemy, that your spirit is intent on stabbing at his face, following the line of the blades with the point of your long sword. If you are intent on stabbing at his face and body will become rideable.
Rideable. Yes, I'll explain in a bit now.
When the enemy becomes as if rideable, there are various opportunities for winning. You must concentrate on this. When fighting and the enemy's body becomes as if rideable, you can win quickly. So you ought not to forget to step at the face. You must pursue with the value of this technique through training. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mentioned this before when he said fight
Hmm,
with your spirit, yes, and
hmm,
intent, and he said point your sword at the enemy's face. And that was just in the beginning, but now you're actually doing this. It's a stab at the face. It's not a cut; it's a stab, right? And again, just think of a finger. Yeah, I can literally poke myself in the chest with my finger, but I can't do it on my face. I can maybe do it on my cheek, but not eyes, nose, and mouth. You can't stab yourself. Even the nose, it's awkward, uncomfortable. Mouth, same thing, right? So we have an instinctual reaction to to move away from something trying to poke us in the face. Yes. So when you do this with
hmm,
a sword, of course, the moment you start to react to that, withdrawing from it, not blocking it with a sword, right? The moment you instinctually react to it, now you become rideable because you've committed to an action that from which you now have to counter it. Energies in movement in one way. It's not an attack way. It's not even a defense way. It's just a reaction. You know where the enemy is going. You know what they're doing. You have them off balance. You can get onto them and ride them. You can now, by riding them, you can start to determine the course of the action. If I'm pulling away, I'm in a particular posture back like this, right? From here, I've got very few options of how to go. Yes. See,
hmm,
the one now who started this, can determine what comes next because they have limited options. And well, whatever you do, they're forced to move. And you can keep guiding those movements until you get a significant advantage, right? So this is what he means by rideable. It's control, in other words. You're forcing the movements. You put them at a disadvantage and you're forcing them. It's like a check in chess. With a check, you're
hmm,
forced to do some certain things. You're not free to move everything. You have to deal with the check. You have to undo the check. You either have to block it or move the king. Those are your two options, right? Same thing here. So the stabbing at the face is like a check move, yes, and makes it rideable. You can force the action. Same thing in chess. You can force the action, and you might not be able to checkmate the king. It may take you like a whole series of checks, right? A whole bunch of them all put together. But each check you maneuver until the king can't maneuver anymore and you checkmate, right? Same thing in sword fighting. Now, this is, of course, the understanding here is that you are using a specific action to initiate a series, a sequence. Yeah.
hmm,
And this is very powerful. Of course, the key comes in that should they fall for it, and react. This is why Musashi said in the beginning, you need to have control of your emotions, control of your spirit, right? And this is mood management. So you're not reacting, but responding. The appropriate response to that is, of course, to black the sword and to counterattack. Yes, block, counterattack, all in one go. Yeah. So this is very powerful stuff. But again, abstract. Look at it, big picture. We're not learning sword fighting. We are learning to live. We are learning to live, to be appropriate, right? Please continue, Beena.
yes. Yes. Okay. To stab at the heart. To stab at the heart means when fighting and there are obstructions above or to the sides, and whenever it is difficult to cut, to thirst, to thrust at the
Thrust.
enemy. Yes, to thrust at the enemy, you must stab the enemy's breast without letting the point of your longsword waver. Waver. Okay. I'm just practicing my pronunciation here. Showing the
Yeah.
enemy the ridge of the blade is square on, and with the spirit of deflecting his longsword. The spirit of this principle is often useful when we become tired or, for some reason, our longsword will not cut. You must understand the application of this method.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there are different ways to cut. In other words, I mean, this is
Yes.
now to stab and put the point in, right? So a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
To scold, tut tut, like,
Mm.
I guess.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yes. Scold means that when the enemy tries to counter cuts as you attack, you counter cut again from below, as if thrusting at him, trying to hold him down. With very quick timing, you cut, scolding the enemy. Thrust up, tut, and cut, tut. This timing is encountered time. Okay. It's a bit
Yeah.
blurred for me.
Encountered. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For me too. Yeah.
Encountered time and time again in exchanges of blows. The way to scold tut tut is to time the cut simultaneously with raising your longsword as if to thrust the enemy. You must learn this through
Yeah.
repetitive
Yeah. Yeah.
practice.
Right. So yeah, the abstract concept is again, we were looking earlier, we took individual actions and combined them into a single action. Now we are taking a single action and in a single overall movement, we are going to apply two separate instances, two separate movements, right? In one. So the same thing though, just this understanding abstract conceptuality. We can have separate actions combined in a continuous longer whole, or you can do two things at once or one thing in two ways, right? Two different parts to one thing. So the same underlying concept, this, right? Moreness, a little bit of sophistication involved.
Okay. The smacking parry. By smacking parry is meant that when you when you clash swords with the enemy, you meet his attacking cut on your long sword with a T-dum, T-dum rhythm, smacking his sword and cutting him. The spirit of the smacking parry is not parrying or smacking strongly, but smacking the enemy's long sword in accordance with his attacking cut, primarily intent on quickly cutting him. If you understand the timing of smacking, however hard your long sword clash together, your sword point will not be knocked back, even a little. You must research sufficiently to realize
Wow.
this.
Wow. Again, it's about intent. Yes. Like you said earlier, with stickiness. To smack and have something, your sword stay in his move is a different intent to just blocking. Right. So when you really understand that movements aren't just movements, there's intent that determines them. And it's very powerful to realize this. Yeah. Very powerful this. Yeah.
There are many enemies. There are many enemies applies when you are fighting one against many. Draw both sword and companion sword and assume a wide stretched left and right attitude. The spirit is to chase the enemies around from side to side, even though they come from all four directions. Observe their attacking order and go to meet first those who attack first. Sweep your eyes around broadly, carefully examining the attacking order, and cut left and right alternately with your swords. Waiting is bad. Always quickly reassume your attitude to both sides. Cut the enemies down as they advance, crushing them in the direction from which they attack. Whatever you do, you must drive the enemy together as if tying a line of fishes, and when they are seen to be piled up, cut them down strongly without giving them room to move.
The bottom line principle here is take the initiative. Yeah.
Yes.
You're fighting four enemies at once. No, you're not. If you take the initiative, you fight one enemy at a time, but in quick succession.
Mm.
See?
Yeah,
I take an
yes.
enemy, go next one, and I maneuver them, and then they're all together, and then they get in each other's way, and I'm still fighting one enemy at a time, just doing it quickly. Yeah.
The advantage when coming to blows. Okay.
Yeah.
You can know how to win through strategy with longsword, but it cannot be clearly explained in writing. You must practice diligently in order to understand how to win. Oral tradition, the true way of strategy is revealed in the longsword.
Right. This is the
Yes,
katana myth, right? That
yes,
this is the way and be all of end all, and the way of strategy is going to be revealed. Not necessarily, but that was the belief, right? That this
yes.
magicalness of the katana.
Okay. One cut. You can win with certainty with the spirit of one cut. It is difficult to attain this if you do not learn strategy well. If you train well in this way, strategy will come from your heart and you will be able to win at will. You must train diligently.
Okay, so in this traditional katana, the two-handed, this whole myth of katana, the ideal was to win with one cut. That was the supreme. If you could do this, you were the man, you were the it, you were the bomb, right? And so this severely limited much of their abilities because they were so focused on this idea, this concept of one cut. This is what you're supposed to do, should do. Yes. And he's saying this, he's criticizing this, but in a very subtle way. You can win with certainty with the spirit of one cut. It is possible. It is difficult to attain this if you don't learn strategy well. So you need to do a lot of other things in order to get there. But certainly, it's not always only that you're going to necessarily use a one and one only cut. It's possible, but not only. So he's not really explaining this very well here, but it's difficult for him to go against the tradition because he likes this idea also, but he knows that in reality, this is obviously very difficult to do. And it's a weakness if you stick to it and see only that. So be very careful of your intent here, right? And don't get caught up in should and supposed to. And he doesn't say it very well here, but at least, it's a powerful takeaway from this when you understand it in the greater culture of the samurai and this mythos of the katana and winning with one cut. This was like the awesomeness. You can actually see it. There's many Japanese TV series, especially older ones that were done like in the 70s, around that age, where they really, all these myths get exhibited and shown how it works. Trying the application. It's very interesting. All right, I think we can. All right. This is the last part. All right, let's finish here. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Direct communication. The spirit of direct communication is how the true way of the Nito Ichi school is received and handed down. Oral tradition, teach your body strategy.
Very important.
Yes. Okay. I must read the whole paragraph here recorded in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Recorded in the above book is an outline of Ichi's school sword fighting. To learn how to win with the long sword in strategy, first learn the 5 approaches and the 5 attitudes and absorb the way of the long sword naturally in your body. You must understand the spirit and timing. Handle the long sword naturally and move body and legs in harmony with your spirit. Whether beating one man or two, you will then know values in strategy. Study the contents of this book, taking one item at a time. And through fighting with enemies, you will gradually come to know the principle of the way. Deliberately, with a patient spirit, absorb the virtue of all this. From time to time, raising your hand in combat, maintain this spirit whenever you cross sword with an enemy. Step by step, walk the 1,000-mile road. Study strategy over the years and achieve the spirit of the warrior. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser man. Next, in order to beat more skillful men, train according to this book, not allowing your heart to be swayed along a sidetrack, even if you kill an enemy.
All right. All right. Again, character, spirit. Yes, way of impeccability, in other words, might as well say that, right? There you go. Philosophy of appropriateness, way of impeccability, take this totally here, right? Part of way of impeccability is capital S strategy, of course, right? Many, many ways to do this. We just have to learn to think this and feel it. And when your body understands strategy, it doesn't just do the first and obvious things. It automatically thinks, hey, there's more to it. Use leverage, etc., right? Use strategy. Yes. Yeah. It's just
Yes.
a habit. Just a habit, really. It's very simple, right? Very simple. Strategy
Yes.
is very powerful. Even we had to finish that sentence. Even if you kill an enemy, comma.
Okay. Okay. Even if you kill an enemy, if it is not if it is not based on what you have learned, it is not the true way. If you attain this way of victory, then you will be able to beat several tens of men. What remains is sword fighting ability, which you can attain in battles and duels. The second year
Yeah.
of Shuhu, the 12th day of the fifth month, 1645.
All right. So
Shinmen
yeah, again,
Musashi.
yeah. That's the person he was writing to. This Teru, and that's him. Um, Now, in Moreness-Culture, we're not looking for victory, right? What is the equivalent? Sharing, collaboration. Yes.
Yes.
It's a greater victory to collaborate and share than it is to beat somebody. This whole idea of
Yes.
beating and victory. Back in the day, yes, it was important when everybody was fighting each other, but we don't live in that age anymore. And fighting each other is stupid. Everybody loses. Everybody loses with fighting. Yeah. But we take this in warfare. We know this. Yeah. We know everybody loses. There's no way to win a war. It's just not possible.
Yes.
Right? So when we understand this, all right, sure, we going now anyway. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sure. Thank you. I love that you're here, sure. I love that you. I love your comments. So, this my takeaway for me. I'm going to really make that effort to type with my body. I was talking about, so, wow, you know what? I need to apply this. I mean, I understand the concept in other applications. I never thought of it with typing specifically. I'm going to really make that effort. Not just physically, but with the intent coming from the body. Right? All right, so that's it. We're done. We're going to end it right there, sure, because tomorrow we'll start on the next book, the fire book. That was the
Yes.
water book. So again, very technical. Later, it gets a bit more abstract as we go along. You'll see, but it's very cool. So all right, we'll end it there. We'll end it there. Love that you were here, sure.
Yes.
Love that you were here, and you too, Ramsey. And Norma, and
Yes.
you maybe watch later. Love that you here also. Always, always. All right.
Yes.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
thank you
Brilliant.
so much, everyone, for joining us, and it was fun. Sorry for being late again because I was missing that. I'm feeling sorry for myself because I missed a bit. I always just enjoy this. This is
Uh,
something that's an opportunity every single day for me, and this
yes.
is what I have learned from Way of Impeccability also, to never take for granted the opportunities and the moreness in
Never.
life. And
Never.
this is exactly, so this is something I was feeling like, okay, no, I don't want to miss that. Not because that it is going to, like, okay, yeah, a big disaster for me. First, it was my commitment, that's why. Second, it was that the moreness and the value, it is something I choose every single day to be here. This is something very profound for me, and I really want to be consistent there, of course. But
Yeah.
there are, of course, sometimes situations are not completely unavoidable. But anyway, come to the thought of today was that never take for granted any blessing, any opportunity, any deliberately made choices in your life. This is how you really, truly show your gratitude towards the universe, and the universe understand that by your repeat back, by your takeaway of being always there and not taking it for granted. Universe understand that this is what they really want in their life. So this is another way of taking more and more and more in your life. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And please, if you are watching us live, and if you are going to watch us recorded, because we do see many people really watch our lives recorded, please do click like and subscribe to our channel, and also leave a comment there.
Yeah.
Because by doing so, you are going to train the algorithm, your online algorithm, to set and gives you more stuff like this, not from us only, but also from others,
Yeah.
because you are actually training the algorithm, and this algorithm is going to ultimately train your natural life and algorithm also. Please do pay attention.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much
I,
for
I, I
sharing.
want to I want to leave with a quote, Beena.
Yes,
You were saying about, appreciating. So a
yes.
quote, yeah, from Biela. The moment appreciation becomes habit, it ceases to be appreciation.
Wow,
The moment appreciation becomes habit, it ceases to be appreciation.
wow,
Something to think
wow.
about.
Yes,
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 that's way of impeccability in a nutshell, right there. At least one powerful aspect of it, deliberate living, in other words. Yeah? Appreciation
yes,
has to be deliberate, otherwise, it's not really appreciation. It's meaningless.
yes,
It's just automatic, it's completely meaningless. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. Very powerful quote. Very powerful quote. Very cool. It's what we do every day. We deliberately appreciate, which is an oxymoron because appreciation is being deliberate, right? We appreciate,
Yes,
truly appreciate, capital A, appreciate, deliberate,
yes,
deliberate. Brilliant,
yes.
brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Okay. Okay, see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much, Syl, for
Yes,
sharing such a wonderful story
yes.
with us.
Oh,
Because you are
yes.
not just giving us opportunity to read Musashi in detail, but also you are providing us the context, which is so
Yeah.
relevant and so pertinent. Because now I understand that, and it
Oh, yeah.
gives me more to know about Musashi and his
Yes.
intent. Also, I can assume, of course,
Correct.
it's an
Correct.
assumption because
Correct.
nobody can be aware of completely. But I trust that
Yes.
whatever he was sharing was with a good intent, and it was
Yes.
with the intent of sharing
Yes.
and spreading whatever he has learned so far in his life. So this is
Yes.
something very profound. Thank you so much, Miyamoto Musashi, also, and thank you so much, Sil.
Yes.
Bye for now.
And we're going to see changes coming from him in the next chapters, which is also cool to
Yes.
see. All right.
Okay.
Yes. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.